Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm AmandaMuse, and today we're going to be talking about virtual school, what's been happening. We recently made the switch. Are the kids doing well? Are we enjoying it? Are we going to stay in it? Lots to talk about. Let's jump into the video. If you're a regular AmandaMuse viewer, first of all, thank you for being here. You're awesome. And also the setup is a little different. I'm trying to make it easy on myself, and some videos are going to be really, high production value, and other ones are going to be a webcam and a microphone and me chatting with you guys. Cool? Cool. And I also just shook everything because the computer started to shimmy. Okay, today's video. So I've made 2 videos around this topic, virtual school. A couple of things to consider is that I live in Ontario. My kids are in grade 1 and grade 4, and we recently got accepted into the virtual program. So we were like that second wave of families who made the switch, and we started about a month ago now. So I'm gonna link those other 2 videos down below or up in the eye if you'd like to check those out. We go into why we made the switch, what happened because it was not an immediate switch. We were one of those late decision makers and had put the kids into, regular school and then eventually had to make the switch. It was just, I feel like it was a little complicated for us. Anyway, so here we are now doing the virtual program, and I have some feelings about it. So I guess I'd love to know in the comments if you guys are in virtual school. Let me know how it's going. Of course, this is very different than homeschool. It's many hours in front of a screen, but I'm going to get into that. So how about, I'm trying to decide if we should go pros or cons first. Let's go, you know what? Let's go with the cons, because I feel like let's just get it out of our system and then I'll feel better, and then we can have like a nice and light end to the conversation. Cool beans? Cool. All right. First part, the frustration. I feel like there is frustration all around. There's frustration from Wi-Fi situation. Like, we're not in a huge hub city, so occasionally the Wi-Fi is like super crappy and I'm starting hotspots. And I mean, last week I spent something like an hour on the phone with our internet provider getting it rebooted and reset. It just kept crashing. So that's fun. Then there's the frustration. So aside from like the technical side of things, there's the frustration from being 6 years old and there being an expectation to work very independently. This is proving to be problematic. So I'm going to get into some pros about it. So don't get me wrong. If you're a teacher, if you're going through this yourself, there are definitely some wins to the setup, right? But we're focusing on the bad stuff first. So this past week and the week before, we had a couple episodes of being so frustrated that one of my kids burst into tears. And it's tricky because when we sit down with them and we're okay, what's happening? Why are you upset? Trying to get down to a solution. A lot of it comes down to, children just not understanding that some tasks being requested of them are important and need to get done. And then some are like the teacher's just trying to buy time. For example, there's this feature where kids are in like the main video call and everyone's talking or listening or whatever's happening. And then the teacher has this feature where she can break them out into separate rooms, either independently or like with other kids. And so she will need some time one-on-one with some kids and will break them off into these breakout rooms. And then she asks the other children who are, doing this, what's it called? Asynchronous. Anyway, it's like learning on their own, to write a couple sentences about why you're awesome or whatever, what your favorite thing to do outside is, or, anything. Essentially, the teacher is just trying to have the children practice writing. It's not being submitted. It's just to practice at home. But when my little guy is looking at this timer countdown, like, oh my God, I only have 2 minutes left and I'm supposed to have 3 sentences, and is starting to panic because he missed the information about what the sentences were supposed to be about. I mean, it turns into like a full on crisis meltdown, tears. Oh my goodness. And so I'm up here working, and then Dean is either in the kitchen getting the meals ready, or running an errand, or doing the things in the backyard that he needs to do. I would say most, like 9 times out of 10, Dean's within reach because it kind of falls under his umbrella of things to help with or to be working with the kids on. But it's a thing. So one way we were combating this week is that I would just say, okay, Jack's taking a couple minute break. He'll be back. And we just walk away from the computer, calm down, do some centering type of exercises, which are generally like snuggle in with mom and I'll tickle your back kind of thing. But it's really hard to see your child be so frustrated. And, he loves learning. He loves doing school. And this is proving to be really problematic because obviously the concern is like, is he going to start to hate school? I don't know. So that's like my biggest concern with the frustration. And it's just a lack of understanding because you're 6 and like you don't get it, right? I also can tell that their teachers are doing everything they can to try to be creative and to get the kids involved. And they are very frustrated too. Like I can't even imagine trying to teach 25 6-year-olds virtually at the same time. Like, wow. So not to blame the teachers. They're doing their best. They're trying to make that one-on-one time with their students. And it's hard. And even when you try to reason that like with my child, that this task is unimportant, it's not being received. So that's a problem. And I think, you're going to find that most of my cons are really for Jack because Esme, being in grade 4, there are a lot more pros to virtual learning when you are old enough to be able to work independently. Praise hands. A friend of mine said it perfectly. She's like, when you have little ones, grade 1, I don't know about grade 2, but kindergarten, and you're trying to virtual school with them, you're basically, the parent becomes a seatbelt and you're just trying to get them focused and you're like redoing grade 1 yourself. So it's really hard. The other thing is my kids are in the French program, which is great when they're in school. It is pretty difficult to try to learn a second language remotely when you're this little. At these ages, kids learn in many different ways. It's not just listening. They need to be touching things, tangible items, little tasks, singing, dancing, playing, having proper breaks. They do get breaks with the virtual school, but it's really hard to book it outside and have your lunch in a 40-minute session. Like, it's not impossible. It's just really tricky. And trust me, we're trying our best. I've been taking a bunch of breaks with Jack outside, just throw a ball around, run around, whatever it is. But that's not always possible. Sometimes you have meetings. Sometimes you have responsibilities you need to take care of. And again, at 6, that independence is tricky. So everyone's learning. Let me tell you that much. I think my biggest complaint is the noise. Oh my God. It is just noise pollution. And I know some of you might say, hello, put a headset on them. Sounds good in theory. However, when you're 6 and your parents need to help you for 90% of the day with stuff, well, I wouldn't say 90, that's a big number. 70% of the day, we have to stop in and help them and figure out what's going on. I need to be able to hear the teacher. I need to be able to understand what's going on. And you're kind of always got this ear on your kid. So where I sit, he's like just down the stairs here. So I keep my door open and I can hear him going through his lesson. And if something comes up, I can like yell an answer to him or like just do this or just write 3 sentences about, I can hear him. And so if he has his headset on, I can't. And I also need to make sure he's actually paying attention because have you ever checked out while you're sitting in class listening to someone speak? It happens when you're 6 as well. And, sometimes they have to do this independent learning where they'll read on their reading apps. on their devices. So he's got his computer with his class and then his device, and he's doing reading, but I can't tell if it's reading. And then I'm like, do you know if class is back? And it's just little things, right? Like Jack finds the noise quite disruptive as well. And it's like constantly noise, noise, noise. So he'll mute it when it's independent learning, but then you're 6. So if he has forgotten to set a timer for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, because he loves to set timers for his breaks and things. If he forgot to set a timer, I can't keep tabs on when the teacher's back. And if he's muted it, I can't hear. But then if it's not muted, that's all I hear. I think you might be understanding some of the pain that I'm feeling with the sound pollution. So it's something, okay? And the other side of it is that, just because Jack is not loving or thriving in virtual school doesn't mean he's a bad student. Like he is, obviously I'm his mama, so I'm a little biased, but he is very quick. When the teacher takes them one-on-one and he had to do a little science test, I was standing on the other side of the wall. He didn't see me and he answered all the questions, got all the answers right. He's quiet. So for him to be doing this virtual learning, and I'll give you a prime example. The teacher had asked everybody to tell a joke, or if anybody had a joke to tell, to put their hand up. So he pushed a little button that says hand raised. She called on him. He was telling his joke, but before he could get to the punchline, all these other kids start yelling over him, and he's not the type of kid to yell back, so he didn't get to finish his joke, and he just kind of sat there. And I was like, buddy, are you okay? And he's just like, meh, everybody was talking over me. Whereby if he was in a class setting, the teacher would have been like, shut that down, Jack, finish your joke, because it's more obvious. It's like these little things. And I feel like your strengths of your children, depending on where their strengths lie, might not be obvious for virtual school. So that's all the bad juju. So that's all out of my system. Whew, be gone. It's not making me feel great. It's not. So those are all the cons. Some pretty heavy duty ones, mostly specific to Jack because he's in grade 1 and it's really hard to do learning this way. So let's move on to the cons. Nope, I lied. Let's move on to the pros. Here's some good things that we're loving. First of all, they're back to school and they're learning, which is fabulous. Even if some of the day is tricky, there's still information getting into their little brains, and that's awesome. And I feel like such a sense of relief that they're back into the school system. They're back into their curriculum for the year. Fabulous. There's teachers. It's not me and Dean. Yeah, pretty awesome. Because the first part, if you catch up on those other 2 videos where I was talking about virtual school, when we were at the beginning of the year, we weren't in school and we weren't in virtual school either. So it was really quite pathetic and we had nothing to teach them and we were just trying our best. So back to school, back to a routine is awesome. We all wake up at a certain time in the morning and everybody knows to get dressed because school's starting. And so it's nice to have everybody start work at 9, like we're not just on devices waiting for life to start. So a routine is awesome. And like they're learning things, like real things. And, they both get pretty excited about certain parts of their day. So that's awesome. Being part of peer groups again is pretty fabulous. And I'm seeing that specifically with Esme. And that's because she's in grade 4. She's turning 9 next week. It's an age where the way that they interact with each other is different. Like at 6, yeah, you could talk on video calls and stuff, but you want to be rough and tumble and playing outside or doing a sport or whatever it is. When you're 9, you can interact differently and you can have conversations and it's just a different level of maturity, right? So I saw a huge shift in Esme. And I've been seeing like how well she's doing and thriving. And one of her very good friends that was in her class last year is in her virtual class. So fabulous, right? And Esme, who is super outgoing at home, but isn't the most or the quickest to ask for help at school, if that makes sense. Like if she's struggling, she's like, I'm I'm struggling. I'll deal with it later. But when you're doing this virtual learning, your teacher's right at your fingertips, and she's been having like amazing one-on-one learning lessons with her teacher. She's reading with her teacher. She loves creating like the slideshows and learning how to use the internet. And she's also in French, so she's learning how to use a dictionary online. And like there's all these different ways that she's learning. And for Esme, and probably a lot of kids, to learn through actions like physically looking something up, putting a slideshow together, that is her jam. She, like a lot of kids, like sitting there just listening and learning is not always ideal. So she's thriving, absolutely loves it. And Jack has 2 teachers and Esme has 1. And Esme's created a really lovely bond with her, and I really like her. So that's like the pros and cons. And it's interesting because it really is specific to each kid. And I know that their learning style and their age is playing into this fully. So I guess, the question is, are we going to send them back to in-school learning? Because based on my last video, that was the plan, right? And we're not entirely sure. The numbers keep going up. We're just going with the flow like everybody else. A friend of mine, their school board is not the same as ours, but they just learned that if you're in school right now or you're in virtual, that's where you're staying for the remainder of the year, and there's no more switching. So I don't think that's the case with our school board, but I don't know if Esme needs to go back to school. Like, she's really got into a groove with her teacher. She doesn't need help really at all. There was a couple of moments when she first started and like 1 or 2 last week, and this week she is golden. She knows how to ask for help. She knows how to learn on her own. I don't know if I'll send her back, honestly. I think that this is almost an opportunity for her to gain that confidence in her learning and take control of her education like she's never been able to before. And I'm proud of her. It's awesome. Like, they're not working at their desks with computers and creating such neat little projects and things like she is right now. So I think it might be weird, but I think I would keep Esme in virtual. And if given the opportunity, send Jack back to school, because he needs people. He needs a teacher. He needs like to be immersed in a school that is, he can touch things. So, yeah, weird, but I might do it. That's how I'm feeling today, towards the end of November. I still have time to make a decision. I don't think the switch is until February, but I do have to decide in the next couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I have talked enough. This has been quite a lengthy video, and I'm trying to just do like a one taker. Oh, is somebody crying? Oh, somebody's crying. I've come back in from playing and is crying. So I gotta get it back. I gotta get back to real life. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm really close to hitting 100,000 subscribers. I can't even believe it. I can't. Is this real life? Who knew? Never would have thought this would happen, guys. Crazy. So we'll have to talk about that in another video. All right, I'll let you guys go. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye, guys.